A month left until Seton Hall basketball returns to our viewing screen. Today, Tim, Patrick, and I talk about our biggest concerns. Let's vibe. Welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Pirate Vibes on the Big East Energy Network. Three guys here talking Seton Hall basketball. It's October 1st, gentlemen. We're brought to you by Asabasa Spice. Go to asabasaspice.com and use the promo code BIGENERGY15 for 15% off. I'm, of course, joined by Patrick Madden. How are you, Pat? I'm sorry. Last time Tim was on, I kind of disrespected you. I apologize.
No,
I watched it over, and it's like, Pat, thanks for showing up.
That's okay. That's fine. I'll bat third in this lineup.
And Tim Best. How are you, Tim?
Doing good, Brian. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. You're the superstar. We'll debut your new segment, Sign Mafia, later on today. So, but first, we go back and forth talking Seton Hall basketball in a group chat between the three of us, and we always bring up concerns. So we thought, why don't we do a concern episode, right? Let's just jump right into it. We want to hit you with the facts. We got what? What's it, 32 more days, 33 more days until, as of recording, October 1st. So 34 more days until St. Peter's. 33.
I think you were right the first time. I think it's 33, aka Veer Singh days away.
All right, Tim, we're going to start with you.
Well,
talk about your biggest concern, because obviously after the season we had last year, there are a lot of concerns. We're projected to be 11th place. So we're going to go through our biggest concerns. And, of course, Jerry Carino, with his great timing, every time we're about to film something, he releases something. I don't know if you guys read the article today. So we can add our little tidbits on that while we go through.
Sure. I mean, so for me, let's start with, as you can see with this lovely graphic, second half starts. Last season, a lot of the games that Seton Hall lost could be contributed to very slow second half starts. There were a couple games where they had a bad first half start, and that mainly the big example being the game against Villanova in the Big East tournament, where they started off sluggishly and then came out red hot out of the gates in the second half, made that big comeback, just didn't have enough in the tank to finish the comeback. But if you look at some of the losses, especially in non-conference play, the big ones being Fordham, where they got off to a great start and then just everything fell apart and they lose at the buzzer to the Rams. Even St. Peter's, they got off to a great start in that game, and they think they were like 8 going into the half. And then in the second half, the Peacocks went on their run, gave the Pirates a scare. And I can't tell you how many times that this team got off to a slow second half start, whether they were in the game or like if they're in the game and all of a sudden the second half, the other team starts off on like a 10-0 run or something catastrophic where they flipped like a 5-point lead into like 15 within the first few minutes. That's going to be the big thing with this team. I know it's a new team every single season, but from last year to this year, I have to go back to John Rothstein and the old colloquialism that he bestowed upon Kevin Willard when he was the coach at Seton Hall. He was the chiropractor because he made adjustments. I'm not saying that Shaheen Holloway doesn't do that, but given some of the numbers that we've seen last season with the slow starts in the second half, the adjustments really weren't made, whether that be from a strategical standpoint or from an execution standpoint. So that's going to be overall my biggest concern, because the last thing you want to do coming out of the locker room is to come out flat, because, you get that 10, 15-minute break to recharge and get ready for the next 20 minutes, and you just got nothing to show for it. I think take a good look in the mirror if you're Shaheen Holloway and the staff and say, how can we make better adjustments and put ourselves more in a better position to win a game if we get off to a slow start in the first half and not let it get out of hand, or if we get a good halftime lead, how do we keep our opponent at arm's length rather than letting them creep back into the game, especially against those inferior non-con opponents.
Definitely. Out of all the games last year, what game stands out to you where we actually had a good second half start, and did that correlate to more victories?
Well, I think the two conference games that Seton Hall won last year, DePaul and UConn, they got off to a bit of a slow start against UConn. And then once they really got going, they were able to make the comeback, especially against DePaul. They were down big in the second half, but they were able to figure it out, rally, and shout out to, I think it was it Dylan Adewusu or Isaiah Coleman that hit the tying three that sent the game to OT? I know Adewusu did it against UConn, but I think it was Coleman in that case. Yeah. But you don't want to dig yourself into a hole like that. I mean, Oklahoma State was another example where they got off to a really bad first half start, and they had to dig themselves out of a hole. And don't even get me started on that. And we just hope that we see less of that. I feel like it's going to happen at some point, but if they can limit the number of times that happens, I think this team will be much better off.
Fair enough. Patrick, you got anything for Tim before we move on to your concern?
I'm looking more at dead periods during games. Last year's team didn't really have consistent enough offense where you would get to that one. You'd get on, let's say, a 6-0 run for the other team and have somebody step up and be the stopper. And then the runs just got worse and worse. You're talking about St. John's. You're talking about Oklahoma State. Even a game late in the season against Villanova, where we had, I think it was a 15-point lead at the half. If we'd come out strong in the second half, we would have put them away. Unfortunately, let Villanova hang around. And then Eric Dixon got red hot in the second half, and they beat us by 5 points. So, in that sense, I think that I think what Tim's referencing is as much dead parts to the game where Seton Hall forgets how to play for 5 minutes, and then the opponent either scores 10, 15, or even in a couple of extreme cases, 20 points, and then you're done because you don't have because they didn't have enough firepower in the other 35 minutes to make up for what they lost in the 5-minute dry spell.
Yeah, I just think Tim's saying when we came out of the locker room, there were a lot of instances where that second half was starting, so it kind of stood out more than the drive runs that you're talking about. But I don't know if you guys saw Rothstein's interview today with Hurley. He said no team gets to the tournament or the championship without making runs. If we can't make runs and stop those dry runs, there's no point. Like, you're not going to be successful. So I think it's a good point. All right, Patrick, we got a lovely cartoon here for you. We took a screenshot and AI transformed it into that. Patrick, first of all, I don't know. Tim's looks like so serious, and Tim's smiling the whole time he's on the show. So I don't know why he went serious.
I have RBF.
And then Patrick's screaming in the microphone. I don't think
back in the day, angry was the main emotion for good or for bad. So that's fine. Okay. Let's talk about the 3-headed Seton Hall center. And there was some good news today because if you did read Jerry Carino's article in the Asbury Park Press, it does appear that Najee Hines is forming some chemistry with Bud Clark. And that's got to be a step in the positive direction. Of course, we also found out a couple of weeks ago that Godswill Aaron is going to be coming off of a foot surgery. And then the third player is Stephon Payne, who Shaheen Holloway loves. But part of the issue is that when you go up from Jacksonville, who's in the Atlantic Sun, up to the Big East, there's going to be some type of learning curve. And there's a question about whether that level of play translates to the Big East. So one of the big weaknesses last year was that Seton Hall just didn't get consistent play from the center position. Aaron played like a freshman. He had his good days. He had his bad days. But then he got almost nothing from Okorafor and yes, the legendary Yassine Toomey. Got almost nothing on a regular basis from those guys. So you hope that somebody out of the three steps up and can give you consistent rebounding and can put easy points in the basket from the inside. And then you're hoping from the other two that, if somebody gets into foul trouble or somebody's ineffective, that one of those guys steps up better than what we needed to have step up from the backup center position last year.
Fair enough. Tim, who would you say out of the three-headed monster that you prefer as of right now? I know you haven't seen one of them really play. Well, two of them really didn't play.
Well, based on what I know, and I feel like I'm basing this on potential and the fact that he's got a pretty high ceiling, and we saw him have really good stretches, especially against UConn in that win at the Rock. I'm a big buyer into Godswill Ariarene. I think when he's fully healthy, he's a year older, a year wiser. I think that year of experience, getting significant minutes at the 5, I think that will pay off it big time. Hopefully this year in a big way and moving forward. We've seen Seton Hall players in the past, blossom as sophomores, guys that didn't really get playing time as freshmen. The big one that I can think of is Ishmael Sonogo. He averaged 5 minutes a game or something as a freshman. And then as a sophomore, although he did get some significant minutes towards the end of that freshman season, and then the following year, he was just ready to go and be the glue guy down low, facing off against the top stretch fours of the league at the time, like Henry Ellenson and Chris Jenkins, and to a lesser extent, like Trayvon Blewett, because he was playing the 4 in that small ball lineup that Chris Mack was rolling out on that Xavier team that, was a 2 seed and was the driving force behind them eventually getting to the number 1 line just a couple years later. So but I know it's different 4 versus 5 with Ariarene, but in terms of blossoming as a sophomore while getting some important minutes, but not a lot, I think Ariarene, I'm buying into him the most. But I will say with Hines, give it time. I think his raw talent could get him a lot of minutes, but he's got to mature, and he's got to do a lot of what Shaheen Holloway expects any of his players to do, which is play defense, hustle, rebound like your life depends on it, etc.
Fair enough, Patrick. So the news was that Godswill was hurt over the summer. Do you think that evens the playing field? Because Godswill obviously has had experience in the system. Do you think that kind of evens the playing field, that Najee has kind of gotten that, that one running with the ones?
I think what's funny was last year, one of the biggest surprises I had was seeing Godswill Ariarene in the starting lineup on opening night. Because I don't think we knew the extent of what was going on with Emmanuel Okorafor. We didn't know how serious. He had been sick around this time last year. I don't think anybody understood how much that pushed him back, so that he never really got on track. I think if Holloway, all things being equal, Holloway will put Ariarene in the starting lineup on opening night. But the question becomes, if Hines looks like he's what he's expected to be in terms of his rankings as a player, and in terms of what we've seen in his highlight clips as one of the more dominant big men in New Jersey last year, you gotta just run with it. Particularly, with the fact that this is still sort of a rebuilding process. And as many minutes as you can give Hines and not fall off, it gets you better prepared for his sophomore season. When he gets some experience and gets his feet wet and maybe gets a chance to lose some weight in the off season, if that's an issue, he's in a position to take over as one of the best centers in the conference, because he won't be competing with the likes of Terrace Reed or Zuby Ejiofor
Yeah.
in 2026-27.
Fair enough. All right, I'm going to go to mine. Shooting, and more shooting. Hey, real quick. Tell me about these programs in college basketball. Mississippi Valley State, Coppin State, Chicago State, Cal State Fullerton, and Tarleton State. You know anything about those schools?
I mean, I know where they are, and I know their mascots. I mean, with Mississippi Valley State, they're in Itabena, Mississippi. The amount of useless knowledge I have in where some these college towns like Mississippi Valley State, Itabena, Mississippi.
Well, those five programs were, and Chicago's in Chicago. and Cal State Fullerton's in California, probably in Fullerton. Those are the only five schools that had worse offense than Seton Hall last year in terms of offensive rating, which takes 100%, 100 possessions and how many times you're going to score, how many points you're going to score in that possession. That's terrible. We're making fun of those schools, but Seton Hall is right there with them. So if you look at the shooting numbers last year, they were 43% from 2-pointers. That's 361st in the country. A Big East school should not be that low. So what do? They go add TJ Simpkins, who 47% last year. Bud Clark, we talked about it with Sam a month ago, whatever. He's a mid-range guy, shooting from 2. Fisher was 52%. Dar had 45%. Stan McCray had 48%. So that's all an upgrade. So I'm hoping that all translates to improve the shooting. 3-point shooting, 355th in terms of makes and takes. 322nd in terms of percentage. So they go out, and I don't think they address that enough, honestly. I know Carino's report today was that Dar and Stanton McCray and Simpkins were hitting threes in practice, but hopefully that translates to the game because Bud Clark is not a 3-point shooter. I know the article tried to portray him that he's shooting a lot. He's shooting, 3,000 shots a day? Was that the number?
I forgot if it was a day or a week or whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was. It's like double what everyone else is. So hopefully that's improving him. Fisher's not a 3-point shooter. Tim, I know on your former show you used to talk about free throw percentage all the time. We were 66.3, 339th. That's our best shooting number was free throw percent, and you complain about it all the time. Think about that. That stuck out, and that was the best part of the shooting out of the whole team. So Simpkins an 81. All the guys are better than the 66%. Points per game were 363rd out of 364. We've got to improve on offense. You guys could talk about the dry runs. I guess that ties in and the centers. But if we cannot make shots, if Seton Hall cannot make shots, everything you guys were saying is not going to matter. In my opinion.
I am in awe that we had the second lowest scoring offense in the country. I really want to know who was below us.
Mississippi Valley State. They were the worst offense in almost every category except when we were.
Well, at least they made up for it by being great on Twitter.
And Jerry Rice, right? Jerry Rice is from there.
Sure was.
Yeah. So, if not counting yours, which concern are you worried about more, Patrick? The shooting or the second half? I guess that mine and Tim's kind of go together.
I think
they're terrible at shooting. They're going to be dry spells.
I think the shooting is definitely, and you need to have more consistency. Now, again, to sort of piggyback off something that's been said about Bud Clark, he is the type of point guard who at Merrimack made everyone better.
Yeah.
So you are hoping that whatever numbers you saw out of Stanton McCray, Simpkins, Dar, even Shaheen Felton on the perimeter improve because he'll be getting them better shots. If you don't have guys, forcing up threes like happened a lot last season, and you get guys with open looks, you should make more of them because an open look is an easier shot. And then, of course, he's going to hopefully he'll find people in very good positions to hit layups and dunks. Because another thing this team really struggled a lot with last season was making layups. How many times did we see that guys could not power up baskets? How many times did people, what was Prince Aligbe, for example, was a prime example of a guy who just threw up brick after brick from within 5 feet last season, and he was one of our better offensive players. So hopefully, you have better finishers around the rim, like Fisher, like Clark, like maybe to a certain extent, guys like Hines and Aaron A. If you step that up again, if you have to improve all three facets of the shooting to improve the offense. Having a better offense should conceivably put less pressure on the defense. You don't need the defense to hold people to 48 points a game in order to win basketball games. You can occasionally win a game that's in the 70s if your 2-point, 3-point, and foul shooting is better.
Well, the thing is, all of our concerns are related on the offensive side. We're not even talking defense. Not one of us brought defense up at all.
Well, because
it was bad last year. What's that?
Well, I mean, with the Shaheen Holloway team, like, you expect defense to be like their identity. However, and you were about to hit at this, like, the defense was abysmal at times because, like, their talent level was just so far behind everyone in the Big East. And when they matched up against teams that were light years better than them, like St. John's and Creighton and Marquette, like, they made them look really bad.
Yeah. I think St. John's was the only team in the Big East that had a worse 3-point shooting percentage, right? Because weren't we 11th? No, were we 10th or 11th? I don't know. But anyways.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was 11th, to be honest. I mean, if we're ranking that low nationally, like, I'd be shocked if anyone in the conference would have been lower than us at that point.
Fair enough. All right, when we come back, we're going to debut our new segment, Tim Sign Mafia, on the Big East Energy Network. We are back on the Big East Energy Network, Pirate Vibes, the only home for Seton Hall basketball right now. Tim, obviously you're famous for creating a sign.
Correct.
On Sign Mafia when you were at Seton Hall. Got national attention. I was looking for a picture of you, and you're all over the internet. So we decided, we're gonna give you a little hot take segment, and we're gonna use your sign. But first, let's do the transition. Sign Mafia vibe. We're gonna kind of mix your Sign Mafia with this show. So, all right, Tim. I know you're not going to purchase because our budget's not high enough. Poster board every single episode since we're doing 2 a week. So we got a dry erase board.
We sure do.
What do you got, Tim?
All right. Hopefully my handwriting is good enough. 35% of our conference games and more than half the non-con should be streaming service exclusives. Like, I'm going to sound like Peter Griffin when he was on the news doing the, what really grinds my gears segments. That's what I'm going to sound like. But, like, okay, like, it's 2025, and here we are. Out of 20 conference games, 7 of them are Peacock exclusives. And then the first 5 games of the regular season, that's those first 5 home games before they go to Maui, are all on ESPN Plus. Thankfully, I have the luxury of having Peacock and ESPN Plus. However, for a lot of our fans, and I'm just going to address the elephant in the room, a lot of them are in the more elderly age bracket. And I may be a little too mean with that, but like the generation that's not so technologically savvy, for them, that is going to make it so much more difficult for them. If they can't make it out to the Rock or Walsh Gym, like, that puts them at a major disadvantage just to watch this team play. And it's a microcosm for the landscape of television broadcasting for sports across the board. I mean, not just with college hoops or college football. I mean, let's go back to, the fact that the NBA is going to be back on NBC for the first time in 23 years, but you have a ton of games that are going to be on Peacock. And I think one of them that's a Peacock exclusive, if I remember correctly, I think it's on at like 11 p.m. Eastern time. Like, I think it's a Laker game too. Like, if you're a Laker fan in these parts, like, you're going to be conked going to work tomorrow. Like you're going to be up to like 1:30 in the morning, and here you are. You got to go to work, wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning, and like. But I digress on there. But I think it should be noteworthy that, again, 35% of our conference games, that's 7 out of 20. And again, more than half the non-con. That's first five non-conference games at home, plus an additional one, I think, against Central Connecticut State in early December. And I guess I'm going to go all boomer here, if you will. But like when I was in college, all of our games were on TV. And there were some games that were just on regional sports networks. And unfortunately, because of streaming services, that's dying out. Like, I mean, there's like Bally Sports, and then there's like the outliers like Yes Network and SNY in our area, Pix 11, just to name a few. But because of regional networks dying out, like that's why you don't see any games on not as many games on TV anymore, and why they're becoming over reliant on streaming services. And I know that before we started recording, Pat was talking about how if you got a game on TV, like you should be counting your blessings, because like if you're getting on TV, like you're a big deal. But nowadays, like getting on TV, like you might get on FS1 a few times. We don't even have a game on Fox this year, let alone even I know that NBC carried a few games for the conference last year, including I think Georgetown at Notre Dame was one of them. And then CBS has their fair share. I don't know if they're going to be doing it this year because we don't have any CBS Sports Network games anymore, but I would assume like big CBS might carry one or two. I didn't look at it all. But
no, the only Big East team that's going to be appearing on CBS is St. John's, and that's for their game against Kentucky.
The CBS Sports Classic.
Yeah, and because of CBS's connection with the SEC. Of course, the one game we mentioned in our warm up to the show was the fact that the second biggest game in the conference, which is St. John's going to St. John's is going to Hartford a week and a half before the regular season ends, last week of February, and that game's on Peacock, right in the middle of the Winter Olympics. No, right after the Winter Olympics, I believe. But the fact is that, the only reason Peacock wants volume, Peacock wants quality, and the only reason Peacock is in this deal is to get people in Big East cities, and the Big East obviously has a lot of the biggest TV markets in the country: New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Chicago. They want people in those big TV markets to buy subscriptions. Even Marquette has 7 Peacock games. And Marquette has obviously been in the top half of this conference. I thought Creighton had like 8.
Yeah, Creighton has a ton.
Creighton has a high number of games, and again, you don't think that those two fan bases who are definitely more motivated to make sure they watch all of their games are not going to buy a Peacock subscription that they didn't have before. So obviously, Peacock bought into this looking to generate revenue. I don't think they were doing it as a public service, and I don't think, as much as people might think this, they didn't buy this to give John Fanta the incentive to jump from Fox to NBC. I think this is about money in pockets, really. They did. And, unfortunately, part of that is, goes towards the enhanced revenue. NIL is a big player in this. The presidents and the ADs in the Big East want the money because they want to be able to put a competitive product. And in their minds, it's no skin off their back. They can expense the streaming, the Peacock and the ESPN Plus subscriptions. And their sort of attitude is, well, if you're like, they will look at a season ticket holder and say, not for nothing, if you're spending all of this money on a season ticket, what's another $20 a month to buy? I don't think Peacock is that expensive, but what's
like $4.99 or something like that, depending on what.
I got a hot take here, though.
Okay.
If you don't have ESPN Plus and Peacock right now, all you got to do is get ESPN Plus for the first month. You're going to have to get a streaming service anyway. Don't pay for Peacock until the second month because all the ESPN games are from November 3rd to December 3rd.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even think that's not even a hot take. That's just a life hack.
Life hack. Okay, a life hack. But you guys, we're
Bryan
talking
Webster's
about all
public
these streaming
service
services and
announcement to the
everything,
Seton
and
Hall
it's
fans.
complicated for like the older generation. Well, if we can make it a little bit simpler, and you go over your family member's house before the holiday, you set up ESPN Plus. Thanksgiving, you cancel it, right? Or you
Yeah.
set up for it to cancel. You can do this all for your phone and then sign up for Peacock the next day. And you don't
Yeah,
really need Peacock until December 23rd. So you got 20 days off.
Yeah, and you know what? Like if you do the job and with ESPN Plus, helping out your grandparents or your uncles or whoever, like that's gonna get you a better Christmas present.
Exactly. Right at the perfect time when you got to sign them up for Peacock to get Kevin Willard's return. So and then it just makes sense. And then in March you cancel it for them.
Yeah, it'll be a Festivus miracle to get that right in time for Kevin Willard's return to the Rock.
Fair enough.
And then at the meantime, you can get The Office, whether it's between games or if we're 2-15 again, the Big East. You can watch an episode or two of The Office instead of watching us get our butts kicked by Xavier the last week of March.
Here's another life hack. The remake not the remake, the paper,
reboot.
I think it's called.
Yeah.
On Peacock, not that good. I'm going to be honest with you. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Go watch The Office reruns.
And with ESPN Plus also, I mean, if you're a big documentary fan like I am, like the entire library of 30 for 30 movies is on there. There are so many good ones. And if you want to do a hate watch of Requiem for the Big East, get ESPN Plus. I promise.
Fair enough. All right, gentlemen. I guess it's time to get a Peacock. Do you guys have Peacock and ESPN Plus yourselves?
Of course. Oh, yeah. Sure do.
Not yet.
Not yet. Which one you missing? You missing both or one?
I think my Disney package comes with ESPN Plus, but I didn't buy Peacock last season because I was actually we only had 4 Peacock games and I was at all 4 of them. So I didn't need to buy Peacock.
The crazy thing about ESPN now is that they have different levels. There's actually a $30 a month one now. So be careful when you sign up for the ESPN Plus because it includes pay-per-views.
Yeah, you need that to get the wrestling stuff.
Yeah. No, I found that out the hard way about 2 weeks ago. WrestlePalooza. I mean, I wanted to see. There's a lot.
My
of stuff.
6-year-old wanted to see it. I learned the lesson too a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to watch him. Like, come on, and yeah, no, I got bamboozled. So thanks a lot, TKO.
John Cena's last matches, I think, on Peacock. Just as a
yeah, well, NBC and Peacock. So yeah, no.
Oh, it's on NBC. I thought it might only be a Peacock exclusive.
Yeah,
but
Saturday night's main event.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We'll have to do this again. You're going to see our faces twice a week now, starting next week.
Yes, sir.
All right, stay true, stay blue, and vibe on.
Ahoy there!